Welcome to Bonding, an educational kinky podcast hosted by Sub in the City. I'm Sarah Salazar and I'm an integrative kink therapist, coach and educator, not to mention a proudly collared submissive with 15 years of experience on the BDSM scene. I'm in a 24/7 Dom-Sub dynamic with my husband and pro-Dom, Master Carlos, and in this podcast, you'll hear us talk about all things kink, BDSM and power exchange. So whether you're a curious newbie or a long-standing member of the community, welcome Kinksters. We're looking forward to bonding with you. Hello, Kinksters, and welcome back to Bonding. It has been a hot minute. I think it's been maybe over a year since I've recorded a podcast episode, and I do have good reason for it, I promise. We have been super busy down here in our hometown of Bournemouth, opening our brand new dungeon. The Sub in the City studio has now been open and running for well over 6 months, and it has been fantastic. But it has been blood, sweat and tears. But we wouldn't have it any other way. It's been a fantastic project that we've been working on, and we're really excited to have brought this to life. So now that is up and running and we have a little bit more time, I really wanted to get back into the podcast because I miss talking to you and sharing insights and getting to know all of you, bonding with you, okay? So I'm back. I've got lots of topics that I want to talk about, lots of topics that you've been requesting that we talk about. And so I want to dive straight in. Because one topic I would love to talk to you about today is more on the Dom side, okay? And I want to talk to you about receiving and your ability to receive as a dominant and how important that is when stepping into your dominant energy and being a good Dom. So when we talk about the dominant partner in power exchange, we often think about a person's ability to lead with confidence, to be assertive, to command presence, all of those beautifully, what I would call divine masculine traits in terms of energetic exchange with a submissive. But what we don't often consider is a Dom's ability to receive and to surrender as an important part of a fluid power exchange. One of the most common desires I hear is this desire to surrender, to let go of the outside world and to fully just, surrender into something delicious. And most people assume that they have to experience this through submission and letting go of control. But if the idea of being submissive doesn't come naturally to you, or it just doesn't feel like your thing, but you still want to experience this blissful state of surrender, it doesn't have to be the only way. So think about this, right? A Dom receives in many ways through power exchange. It isn't all about just giving. That's why it's an exchange. It's a co-creation. You hear me say this all the time. And one of the most common questions that Master Carlos gets asked in our workshops is, well, what do you get out of being dominant? And that's the thing. We assume it's only the submissive who is receiving something or getting something from the interaction. At least that's what we've come across in the spaces that we've been working in very recently. But Doms receive many things. They receive devotion, service, obedience, power, control, love, affection. And actually, when you think about it, it makes sense that a resistance to receive these things is a common yet natural challenge for Doms. And this is something that I've been noticing a lot with the people that we've been working with. This can also relate to why you might experience things like Dom guilt, or trouble finding your authoritative voice, or simply not feeling confident enough to dominate someone, particularly when you like them a lot, okay? And that's natural. Even today, even 7 years in, Master Carlos will sometimes have those moments of doubt where he'll be like, Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? And that's natural because you're a human being that cares, okay? It makes sense that a dom's ability to receive from their submissive plays just as much of a role in being a good dom as leading does. Because you can command your sub to serve you in whatever way you desire them to, whether that's them bringing you your morning coffee or doing some housework or bending over so you can spank them. But if you feel bad every time they do that, then you're resisting one of the most rewarding parts of being a dom, which is to receive that submission, to receive it without the guilt, without the fear, to just be fully in that state of surrender and receiving. So with receiving comes a form of surrender, right? It's not the same type of surrender as submission, but it's certainly a form of surrender in itself. This is where DS dynamics allow us to explore the perfect balance of this divine masculine and feminine energy between two people. So if you're new here, remember, when I talk about masculine and feminine, I'm referring to energy. It's nothing to do with gender. All of us have masculine and feminine energy. And to put it plainly, the masculine is centered around the doing, while the feminine is centered around being. So it might feel natural to assume that the dominant's masculine, while the submissive is feminine energy. But in all my years of working with and coaching curious Kinksters in their power exchange journey, I have seen just how much being able to step fully into your dominant energy can feel just as much of a surrender and a release as dropping into submission can be. And one cannot exist without the other. This is the beauty of polarity and how DS dynamics can teach us so much about allowing yourself to flow in and out of giving and receiving without all the bullshit conditioning of society and the pressure to give or receive for any other reason other than you want to and it feels good. So think about it. Every time your dom has given you a command that didn't land, or you felt their insecurity, the lack of assertiveness, or the energy just felt off, is this really that they're just not naturally dominant? Or is it that they could have trouble surrendering and receiving? In the same way that some submissives have trouble surrendering and receiving. And it's a journey that we have to go on and something that we have to not necessarily learn, but actually unlearn. Because this is something in life that we have not been taught to do. If you're a dom and you're resonating with this, I want you to reflect on that. Every moment of wavering confidence, what is actually coming up for you? Is it the lack of trust in your submissive, that they will want to follow your orders? Is it that you don't want to come across mean, or you don't want to do something that they might not like? When we inspect it a little more closely, all of these things can be interpreted as not being able to receive their submission without that guilt, shame, judgment, or whatever it may be, right? And when it's a sub showing resistance to surrender in this way, we often look at it as topping from the bottom. But have we ever considered topping from the top and what that might look like? I'm going to give you some examples here, okay? It could look like turning a command into a question such as, when I get home from work, you're going to be waiting for me on your knees with your collar ready to serve me, if that feels good for you. Or over-explaining every single move you make because you're worried you'll make the wrong move. I'm going to blindfold you now. Is that okay? Or stand up. Now walk towards me, slowly. Put your hands above your head. Is that comfortable? When you fill the gaps with more and more words and questions, there's no room for pausing and receiving. But the pause is where the magic happens, okay? Dominance doesn't require a lot of talking. If you've ever worked with or witnessed Master Carlos in action, you'll notice he's very conservative with his words. He doesn't speak for the sake of speaking. Every command or question is intentional, and one word can speak 1,000, giving him the information he needs to confidently make his next move. And the thing is, when a Dom is topping from the top, that energy stifles the submissive's ability to follow because they can feel your resistance to surrender and the loop begins. So when we're coaching couples, we're often curious about the submissive's brattiness. That's like quite a common thing that comes up, or their inability to let go and how that hinders the dynamic. But something I've seen more frequently in all the doms and subs that we've coached is the dom's fear playing a significant role in the stuckness of the dynamic. And so many of us have been conditioned to believe that to receive is selfish. And so it's understandable that you'd think to boss someone around and tell them what you want them to do for you. Yeah, of course it feels totally wrong. We talk about the importance of a submissive's ability to receive and surrender and follow someone else's lead. But it's also just as important for the dominant to be able to give a command confidently and then trust and surrender to the belief that the submissive will follow. And this can either become a beautiful ebb and flow between the two, or it can become a vicious cycle of transference where one or both are feeding off of each other's inability to receive. And the fear is no different to what subs experience, right? It's fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of judgment. It's all the same. Society teaches us it's selfish to ask for what we want, and that in receiving we are taking something from someone else. And again, that taking is wrong. But this is not true, and we know this not to be true. A common script that we see is around giving, okay, and over-giving and people-pleasing to the detriment of themselves. If you're a dom listening to this, I want you to ask yourself, where do you find yourself doing this in your everyday life? Do you over-explain every little thing you need? When you ask your boss if you can leave early, or if you decide to treat yourself to a coffee, or when you visit your mum and she asks you, oh, that's a new hairstyle, that's interesting. Are you over-explaining yourself? Are you overcompensating to make others more accepting of you? When the people-pleasing becomes so ingrained, it can sometimes seep through into your dynamic, whether you're a dom or a sub. This can look like adapting to the other person's desires rather than advocating for your own. I was having a very interesting conversation recently around the term pleasure dom, which I think is just completely phony. That's a whole other podcast episode. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. This idea of being a pleasure dom, because, what do you mean you're a pleasure dom? All doms are doing it to give pleasure. And if you're not, then why are you doing it? Maybe you need to ask yourself that. Anyway, I digress. That's one for next week. But it's this idea of people pleasing, right? Adapting to other people's desires and not really speaking up about your own. However, healthy dynamics mean practicing, exercising some level of responsibility for your own desires and co-creating something that works for both people, not just one. If you're a regular here, you'll hear me say a lot that it's not the dom's sole responsibility to carry the dynamic. But what is your sole responsibility? Advocating for your desires. And the submissive sole responsibility? You guessed it. Advocating for their desires. This is why trust and mutual respect is so important. The safety this builds is what allows you to receive from each other with ease. If you're a sub listening to this and you feel your dom may be struggling to receive your submission, here's a few things you can do to support them. Praise and words of affirmation. While you may also be feeling the frustration of this stuckness right now, it's so important to give positive affirmation and reassurance to let your dom know that you enjoy what they're asking you to do or you enjoy submitting to them. Especially for new doms, reassurance is so key. Second, taking some initiative. I know some subs don't want to hear this, but taking the initiative does not make you any less submissive. See it as an act of service to your dominant. If you're sensing your dom struggling to receive, can you offer up some submission as a way of showing your willingness to be led by them? Especially if your dom is still learning and new to stepping into this energy. This is a way of sharing some inspiration with them and showing them what's possible in the dynamic. For example, asking what underwear you should wear that day, or asking for your maintenance spanking. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, by the way, but it just allows the dom to start to step into that energy of what they want to command you to do or what they'd like to see in the dynamic themselves. The third one is having regular check-ins. If you're not doing this already, if there's one thing you should absolutely commit to, it's a check-in. This will allow you both to get comfortable talking candidly about what you want, what you like, and how to create it. What we're wanting to create is a no pressure, non-play environment. Grab your notebook and a cup of tea, sit down for a chat. Now, if you need some help with this, you can now download our Co-Create Your Ideal DS Dynamic questions. These are the exact questions that me and Master Carlos use ourselves when we need to review or reset our dynamic. You can download that now for just $6.99. I'll share the link in the show notes. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. And doms, if you're listening to this and it resonates with you, then we've got just the thing for you that will help you get out of your head and into your body when stepping into your dominant energy. We have an 8-week mentorship program called Embodying Authentic Dominance, and it's designed to help you connect to your dominant side with confidence. No cringy characters, no worrying if your sub will actually do as you say, just pure authentic dominance that can command presence, lead, and receive submission naturally. This 8-week mentorship container is a hybrid course of online masterclasses, one-to-one coaching, and in-person workshops that will give you the skills and knowledge to refine how you lead into something that feels like you rather than a role that you have to step into. And what really sets this mentorship apart from other courses, which I'm so excited about, is that you will get real life experience with a submissive and the opportunity to plan and lead a scene under the expert guidance of Master Carlos and myself. So whether you're currently in a dynamic and you want to become the best dom you can be for your partner, or you simply want to find your inner dom ready to put your best foot forward when you do meet the right sub, this personalized mentorship allows you to combine both inner personal development with real life practical skills for an entirely holistic approach to doming. We start in September. We're only taking on 12 students, okay? Just 12 to ensure that everyone gets our undivided attention. It is application only. So if you think this sounds like what you've been looking for, check out all the details and fill in your application today. It's been great to be back in your earbuds and chat about this topic, and I will be showing up again with some more interesting topics that you've been asking me about. If you have any questions, as always, my inbox and my DMs are always open, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening, Kinksters. It's been wonderful bonding with you. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, don't forget to like and share it with your friends. And if you're ready to explore your kinks further, head on over to subinthecity.com for more content and offerings.